What's going on, everybody? Welcome to C2C Live. It is 8:30 Eastern, the only time zone that is partitioning Kalshi to allow you to bet on cooking with Colin segments and where Austin's yacht is heading to next. On today's show, Chris and I will be talking about the amount of players and the top end players in college football that are entering the transfer portal. Plus, we will give you guys a breakdown of the first round of the college football playoffs. I would just like to say that I hate being the host of this show. I butchered that whole thing. Austin is like,
I got you. It's the problem. I got you. It's a problem. And I didn't even mean to, but now I'm like, you know what? Now I'm going to take this as like a challenge. Like, can I get the host to fully screw up?
Austin spends so much time. I swear he doesn't even spend time at his day job preparing these opening segments for these shows. And I don't really have to do one since I really only host the official. It's pretty easy. It's the same open every week. I've got that thing nailed down now. But it is Chris K, Matt Bruening here for you guys on C2C Live. Maybe Austin will be joining us. We're not 100% sure. I believe he is preparing his yacht for his Christmas journey. I don't know if you listened to Campus Life. I guess their big thing this week was going to see Santa. Have you taken your kids to see Santa Claus yet?
No, I typically do listen to Campus Life, so I will certainly do that. But I haven't gotten to this week's. I have not taken my kids to Santa. My kids are 2 and under, and part of me is like, it's just a little bit more difficult than like, yes. Is the juice worth the squeeze right now?
Yeah,
like we're doing other things like kind of fun. Like so, it's like unless my wife says something, the plan is to not do it. But
smart.
That's just me.
That's smart. I just, my kids are older, and I just found out that apparently neither one of them believes in Santa and hasn't for years. It was the news to me as I was talking about, Santa bringing gifts and everything. Is Santa bringing you anything for Christmas?
Me? Nothing.
No,
never anything. But my kids, plenty.
Same. I would say, but my kids are around here somewhere. So since I know Santa doesn't exist, and it's Papa Claus here that's providing Christmas, I can't say exactly what they're getting. But yeah, it's gonna be a good Christmas for the Bruening boys. I can promise you that. Chris, let's jump into what could actually be a good Christmas for certain teams that are looking for quarterbacks in the portal. I want to start at the quarterback positions. We've had a lot of, I think it's probably fair to say, big names to enter the portal. Would we say Brendan Sorsby and Sam Levitt are probably the top two that have like performed on the field, and probably Sorsby the best, at least most consistent from a college perspective. I believe that's why he's a number one ranked player, at least by 24/7 Sports, or the number one ranked quarterback by 24/7 Sports in the portal. But let's start with Lagway. I mean, he was a 5-star quarterback. We do a freshman supplemental guide every single year. There was arguments about him possibly being the quarterback one in his class with Dylan Raiola. There were some of us that believe Lagway should have been one, Dylan Raiola one. I believe Raiola ended up being our number one ranked quarterback in that class. Lagway has dealt with injuries, has not been overly impressive at his time at Florida. I believe last I looked, it is Miami, Louisville, and Baylor for some reason in the hunt for Lagway. What are your thoughts on those three schools and where Lagway could possibly end up?
Louisville, Baylor, and what's the third one?
Miami, I believe, was the third one.
I mean, I think you look at the quarterback group, and I think you can kind of segment the top guys in two spaces, right? Like I think Lagway and Raiola to me are like the untapped, like they should be really good. They do have like potentially raw talent that's there. And like if you do it correctly with the right system, you could just create some like monster of an offense. And that's not to throw any shade at all at Levitt and Sorsby. Yeah. I think those are incredible options. They're higher floor by significant margins, low risk options. To me, incredible college quarterbacks. Levitt definitely has a little bit more NFL potential, at least today. But, like there's a little bit of like, I don't see them as like completely untapping an offense, right? Like a Lagway or Raiola in the right system. So to me, like Lagway feels really fun. Like I don't know, Louisville doesn't seem like the right spot. Like to me, it's like if you want Lagway, I feel like that's like an offense that wants a more versatile, athletic quarterback that needs to run him a little bit and take advantage. the thing is, right, like some of these times you get these like big running quarterbacks and they're like not big in stature. They're just like
Yeah.
run a lot types. Well, he's got like the size and frame to withstand 10 to 12 attempts, like and take hits. And that's not to say you want him taking 20 hits, but like use him in a real offense and then get him some rushing attempts. And so I don't know if that one makes sense. All three of those really don't make sense from that angle. But I think like if I had to choose one of them, like I think Baylor feels the most realistic. Miami to me feels like that's a system that wants something a little bit more like less athletic, a little bit more proven, right? Like Van Dyke, like Beck, Cam Ward. Like even Cam Ward was athletic and could run, but he really didn't run a whole lot. So, and that doesn't, I mean, maybe Lagway turns into that, but like Cam Ward had like 90 touchdowns by the time he hit Miami, right? So a little bit different there. Is there one that pops out to you?
I mean, if I had to pick out of those three, I think, which is insane to say, I think when you think about it, it's probably Baylor. Now, I mean, I know he's from the Texas area. I don't know how close to Baylor he played high school football here. Apparently, there are ties to Baylor University with his family. From everything I heard earlier today, there's a lot of smoke about him possibly going to Baylor, which, again, if he's just trying to come home, man, I guess it makes sense. He does have the talent that, like, I don't think you immediately write him off NFL future-wise and going to a school like Baylor. I mean, Miami's a weird one because the past couple of years they've been able to go into the portal and get like a quarterback that I think is starter-worthy level at the college level, and then has some possible NFL upside, but that fits their system, right? Like I know another one that's been linked to them is Sam Levitt. And I get Cam Ward worked out in a way for Miami, and they didn't make the playoffs. Weirdly enough, they made the playoffs this year with Carson Beck, who I think is the worst quarterback.
Right.
Sam Levitt, I think, is a lot more closer to Cam Ward, though, with like the gamer mentality. And it really seemed like Cristobal did not want that. So the only quarterback I could see that could fit the Miami like play calling what they want is probably Dylan Raiola, but he's not nearly as proven as Ward and Beck, who both have been the last two transfers in. So like, I don't know if they would go that route. But for me, Lagway, Baylor right now makes the most sense, which again is just a weird thing to say. I mean, there's not any meant as any disrespect to Baylor. I just don't see them as like a top end. I mean, if Lagway goes there, are we projecting them to win the Big 12 next year? I wouldn't think so. Even if he reaches his peak of peaks, which again, we thought could be a number one quarterback in his class. And I think college football quarterbacks can change things for you, but I still don't see them being like a playoff team with him at quarterback.
The quarterback can do a lot. The Big 12 is just always funky, man. The Big 12, like the way you think it's going to happen just never happens that way, right? Like Arizona State to me, I bet them in the preseason, like as a Big 12 winner, playoff contender type. And injuries, right? But even then, it didn't feel like if Levitt was healthy that it was going to matter.
Yeah.
I think if there's possibility that they could be the second best team of the Big 12, but like as we see and saw with BYU, like that's a Pop-Tarts Bowl, probably. That's not necessarily the playoff. So he's from Willis, Texas, which I guess is, I don't know, it's north of Houston, maybe 45 minutes to an hour from like dead center.
So it's probably
kind of like closer to the Woodlands.
Yeah, it's still a couple hours away from Baylor. It's still a couple hours from Baylor.
It is an interesting spot. It is so random of a spot that I almost believe it. Like, because like, how could you create that out of thin air? So I don't know. The interesting thing about Miami is it doesn't feel like what you were kind of saying. It was like, it doesn't feel like any of these guys feel like a Miami guy.
Yeah.
I think Raiola fits the mold the most because of like the stature and the physical acumen that like lines up more with like your Beck and Van Dyke. But like, I don't know. It just feels like if that feels like like they're settling or they know something that we don't. And I don't know if any of us trust their offensive minds enough to say whatever their decision is, we trust. You know, there's some coaches that it's like, oh, they want to do this, they want to do that, they want this guy, they want that guy, that you're like, I don't care. I believe it because I just trust that coach or that system. And I don't know if Miami's that. So I'm very curious to see what they do because they are year over year seem to be a portal quarterback destination. And that can be very tricky in a year that doesn't necessarily have that type of fit for you.
Yeah, I mean, so if we'll take Baylor off the board and say we got Lagway going there. If we go next to Rayola, I believe so. There was 3 teams in on him. I actually don't even know if Miami was in on him. From what last reports I saw, it was Texas Tech and Louisville. Then Texas Tech removed themselves, which rumors are, which we can get to this in a minute, is Brendan Sorsby, because his girlfriend is now going to play volleyball at Texas Tech. So
besides that, do you think, maybe I want to spill the beans a little bit, like, do you think there's a style of quarterback that they want that makes you think them say, nope, not Rayola?
Who are we talking about? Miami, Texas Tech. I actually think, man, it's so hard because Sorsby's not nearly the passer that either Will Hammond or Baron Morton are, like anywhere close to that. But the offense to me looked a lot more fun in the little bit of time that Will Hammond was in there. I don't take much away from, what was the game that they got? Was that the Arizona State game where like he got thrown in? I think it was like the first game he technically started, I think, because Morton got hurt the game before. Maybe it was the first quarter of that game. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not taking much away from that game. That was his first time out there. But I thought they looked really good. And Will Hammond, one of the big things, the big moments for Hammond was that I think it was like a 60-yard touchdown run at one point in time that really kind of helped Texas Tech in the next week after. I just don't think that Sorsby is near the passer. I wouldn't be going for Sorsby if I'm Texas Tech. But it sounds like Hammond is probably not going to be back at all next year. Go ahead.
Resident C2C therapist, medical field member, Nate Marquise, it says that if it's just your typical ACL tear, he should be back in 9 months, which would put him at the start of the season for Texas Tech. Is that why they pulled their name out of that hunt? I think it's more a little bit because they want somebody a little bit more versatile and athletic, like a Sorsby or Levitt type that can run.
Yeah.
But I will say this, after what Nate just said, I'm like, I don't want any of these guys going to, if that's the case, I don't want any of these guys from a fantasy perspective, right? Like, if Will Hammond can stay there and be healthy, like, I think that's a great fantasy option.
Yeah.
And I don't want him to ruin Levitt, Sorsby, or some potentially elite CFF option. And now there's some battle competition. Maybe there's an edge to the those that have the information and can draft accordingly. But sometimes I'm just like, let me steer clear of this and like, let's just lock in a guy with value.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if Texas Tech does go Sorsby. I think a lot of people are linking them there because of the girlfriend. The other big spot is Indiana. But to Rayola really quick before we pivot full in on Sorsby, I actually think both spots, if I had to pick a spot, if we're talking Louisville, Miami, and we're saying Miami more because it seems more of the stylistic fit for what Miami is looking for, I would prefer from a fantasy perspective. And honestly, as someone, I don't roster Dylan Rayola anywhere, but if I did, I think I'd want him to go to Louisville. I mean, I get Miami's probably going to have the better offensive line. They've got Malachi Toney. They'll probably get at least another decent wide receiver of some sorts in the portal. We know Miami's going to be good. But man, what Jeff Brom has done with quarterbacks throughout his entire college career has been impressive. You know, they've done it. He's done a good job as well, bringing in wide receivers and turning them around. I mean, again, sucks Chris Bell tore his ACL, and we're not going to see what that looks like from an NFL draft perspective now, but he's rebounded his stock immensely this year with what he has done at Louisville. Like, I think, again, most of his quarterbacks that he's had, I don't want to say are statues, and Rayola is not a full statue. He can move a little bit, but I think he would fit so much better at Louisville than he would at Miami personally. And I think probably a little bit less expectations on him as well is probably a good thing, because I think going to Miami after, like, you go into Nebraska, right, and you're the prodigal son returns, you're going to bring Nebraska to the playoffs. All that stuff just does not go the way it plans. You go into Miami, it's the same thing. You may not be the prodigal son because you're not a legacy of Miami, but they're still expecting you to now take them back to the playoffs again as they found a way to backdoor their way in this year.
Yeah, I would agree. I would have said Louisville too before you had mentioned it. Like, I think that's a better fit. I think it's also appealing from a Rayola standpoint. Like, I think you got Brom got Shuck to be drafted in the second round.
Yeah.
Now, the fit does make sense. A lot of the quarterbacks they've had are more statues, a little bit of athleticism. Like, Shuck could run a little bit. We saw that a couple of weeks ago against the Bucks. Like, not complete statues. There are a couple guys that couldn't move for anything, like Aiden O'Connell, but like Miller Moss can't really run. But like, if you said, hey, run a straight line, you can do that a little bit. But it's good from like an NFL perspective, I think, for him. The competition is going to be good for him in terms of like it's not going to be overbearing or some crazy schedule. Brom can make something out of nothing, and then if he's looking at rebounding any potential issues with his stock from an NFL perspective, I think that's a great fit. I think to me that's the one that from the jump I was like, yeah, you know what, this feels a little odd for a guy that used to like was like the number 1, number 2 quarterback, 5-star, big name, big aspirations to go from like Nebraska, which is odd, to then go to Louisville, which feels odd. But like I think it feels like a really good natural fit that nobody would ever be like, oh, like poo poo on him because he took Louisville. I think everybody would be like, yeah, good for him, good spot. Like let's see what happens.
Yeah, the funny thing, really quick about Raiola, obviously, we actually talked about this probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think when the rumors came out about his brother decommitting and then uncle got fired, and we made maybe it wasn't this, maybe it was a show I guessed it on. It was, my bad. I'm mixing shows up. I guessed it on a show. We were talking about him copying everything Patrick Mahomes does, and all of the talk about him having to go tear his ACL. I almost said it in my head, like, it'd be good if he's able to come back healthy, realizing he has not actually done that. So I almost got myself in trouble there. With Brendan Sorsby, again, the other school outside of, again, people linking him to Texas Tech because of the girlfriend narrative, which, as Austin said on Campus Life, is undefeated, but typically has been, just
it's as good as it gets. It hits P5, it hits P4. It truly does not miss.
The other spot that he has been linked to is going back to Indiana, which did he transfer out when Cignetti got there? Or did he leave before Cignetti?
This is his second year at Cincinnati.
So he left when Cignetti came in.
Cross paths with Cignetti. Yeah.
So he would have left right. Okay. So there's a lot of people linking him going back to Indiana is obviously Fernando Mendoza, which we could touch on after this segment if we want, about him winning the Heisman. Is going to the NFL. Do you think, is that a fit you think for you with Cignetti and that Indiana offense? They don't, at least I would say right now, have their quarterback of the future on their roster. I don't think so. He's likely going to the portal.
I think they're definitely going portal. I don't know if there's a true natural fit that feels great. I feel like if you're looking for the more like the pure passer types, like we've seen with Curtis Rourke and Fernando Mendoza, they really are passers. They can run a little bit, like Rourke more before the injuries at Ohio. Like there's not really a guy there that you want, like Raiola we just discussed. I just don't know if he's done enough to prove for like Cignetti to want him. And so, yeah, I think Sorsby's probably the biggest guy they could get that like makes the most sense. Like Levitt too in the same boat. It's kind of another one where it's like a little bit more weird of a fit, but maybe Levitt says, you know what, like I would prefer to just be a passer. People know that I'm athletic and can run, but like, let me refine my passing. Let me get incredible efficiency numbers, boost the stock up to a first round, like a true first round, no doubter. It's got to be between those two, because looking at this other list of names, I just can't think of anybody that Cignetti would settle for, which is absolutely crazy that we're sitting here today, December 17th, 2025, thinking Indiana really should have their pick of the litter. Yeah. And they would not settle for Lagway or Raiola or any of these other names. It's kind of a weird world, like Stranger Things, maybe even.
Oh gosh, Stranger Things.
Well, I need to finish the last episode. Some of these episodes go real long. I have one. I'm halfway through the last episode, I think, of like the first section.
Okay. Yeah, we can't give away spoilers. I have so many theories. And who's your favorite character? And then I promise everybody we'll get back to football.
I don't have a favorite character, to be quite honest.
You gotta have a favorite.
I'm bad with shows like this. I'm a bad TV watcher.
Okay.
As Slack can attest to.
Austin, who, doesn't have time to join us on the show, but joins us in the comments, says, what do we make of Drew Mestamaker to the Indiana rumors, where we can answer that question too here in a second, Austin, which, see, now you threw me off. Eric Morris, head coach, leaves UNT to go to Oklahoma State, or is leaving, right? I'm sure he's sticking around for, they made the play.
I think he's...
No. He's already gone, right?
Yeah, he's already gone and fairly pot. No reason for him to stick around, because I'm pretty sure Mestamaker's not sticking around for the bowl game either.
He is at Oklahoma State, and I'm sure a lot of people are expecting Mestemaker to possibly follow Morris, but rumors of him possibly going to Indiana. I mean, I don't hate it. It's definitely a different system, and I think it's going to be a big step up in competition for Mestemaker, but it's also kind of hard for me to doubt Cignetti with what he's done. I mean, I'll be honest, he took at the time, G5 quarterback in, oh God, I know I don't have his name, Rourke, right? Curtis Rourke.
Curtis Rourke. Yeah, Matt quarterback. Not even a G5 quarterback, a Matt quarterback.
I had Collins Irish stuff in my head. It'd be like Patty O'Malley was stuck in my head for some reason. I knew that was not his name, obviously. Yeah, Curtis Rourke from Ohio to Indiana, and again got them into the playoffs. So I think it's fair to say Drew Mestemaker's probably a little bit better. I would prefer him following Morris to Oklahoma State, but I don't think Indiana is a bad spot if that is where he ends up going.
I think it'd be fine because I trust Cignetti. Like I said, there's systems, there's quarterbacks or coaches that you just say, you know what, I just trust this guy. And Cignetti, at this point, I just trust him. There's no reason not to. His pedigree, what he's done, I mean, he turned Todd Centeio into a legitimate, real quarterback in college football. Yeah. I mean, if you can do that, then you can turn anything into gold, right? I think the difference between him and Mestemaker and Rourke is that Rourke had a ton more experience.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if Mestemaker, I wouldn't personally want it if I'm Cignetti, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. That's not a bad option. That's not a bad fallback plan.
Yeah.
But that's certainly not, I would imagine that's certainly not his first, second, or third choice.
Yeah, if Mestemaker doesn't go to Indiana, ends up following him to Oklahoma State, I imagine that puts Hoss Haney into the portal, who is also an intriguing quarterback, in my opinion. I think Haney would fit that system very well if Mestemaker doesn't go, but we'll see. Austin also asked, why am I wearing a Chelsea hoodie here? It's because I got it when I went to see Chelsea in London,
It's a good color. I love that.
It is. It's really good. Yeah. It brings out my eyes.
It looks great. You also have it. It matches your headphones a little bit too.
It does. I am a Manchester United guy, and red's my favorite color. But look, it brings out the blue in my eyes, and I'm just trying to appeal to the audience, Austin.
That's not actually Austin, is it?
Yeah. Look at the next comment that I have not posted on screen. It's definitely Austin.
That's gonna say I don't know what his actual StreamYard name is.
I don't know why. It puts the numbers on there now. All of a sudden, when I was commenting on their live show on Campus Life, it did the same thing. My thing is just Matt B12, I think. Then it added 4 other numbers on the back end of my thing for some reason. But anyways, so I'm just going to mention a couple other quarterbacks because we've spent 20 minutes talking quarterbacks. We completely forgot to jump into the, gosh, I'm going to say it wrong again. Kalshi.
We don't even jump into Kalshi. Kalshi stuff is weird and interesting. I'll say Kalshi's allowing you to bet who will enter the transfer portal. That is what they're saying. I think effective in the next week. That feels like a bad route. Let's spend 2 minutes on it. If you can bet on it, if you can enter the portal, that's not even anything definitive. And they're basically saying they'll rule the bet yes or no, win-loss based on an announcement. That feels very slippery slope. You want to talk about college sports being corrupt? This feels so much closer than ever being able to bet a winner.
Well, yeah, I mean, just look at there's obviously reports and rumors about players who have done stuff, knowing certain things. How much money can you go if you're a family member of I don't want to name a player to cause any if Matt Bruening was discussing entering the transfer portal and I knew I was going to, I could just tell a couple of my friends of him, you could bet money on that and then win. It's a very interesting thing. I know this news just happened, maybe 30 minutes before we started?
Within the last hour or two, yeah.
Yeah. So.
I mean, there's a lot of routes to it, right? You could say, you know what? I'm going to say I'm entering the portal, but I'm not actually going anywhere.
Yeah.
And just be coach, I just want to look at some money and see what happens. But honestly, I'm just going to throw it out there just to get a feeler, but I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You make all the money and then you come back. It feels you know what? You should be able to bet on winning a game, who's going to win a game in the state of Georgia. You can't right now. Well, you can now via underdog in these crypto markets, and Kalshi. But this feels a bit far. We don't need to be going this route with college athletic. It just feels like, you know what, like why are we betting on some of these things? Like we should just like touch grass a little bit.
Yeah. You're welcome, by the way, Austin. For those of you on the podcast, this is I appreciate you avoiding any legal ramifications with that hypothetical. You're welcome. You're welcome. Looking out for the company. So a couple other quarterbacks that have entered. If you want to touch on any of these before we move on to the running backs, we've kind of mentioned Sam Levitt last week. Again, I don't think he's actually fully confirmed he's in the portal. He's not listed, at least I believe, on 24/7 Sports transfer portal list. I know Kenny Dillingham had kind of come out and tweeted it. There are reports that Miami, LSU, dang it, there's two others that are in on him right now. I mean, I still think LSU is probably the best fit with Kiffin, but I also think he could possibly go after Lagway. That's actually one that I didn't think of.
Lane Kiffin retweeted the Lagway announcement.
Did he? So yeah. I didn't. That does make some sense to me because Lagway, I think, fits what Kiffin likes. And I mean, if you look at what he did with Trinidad, that was not bad for a quarterback. At least that was not super proven. So, Daniel, I assume you're a Clemson fan. I do not think Lagway to Clemson would be dope. But I'm interested to hear why you think so. Because Riley left, right? He's not their offensive coordinator anymore.
Pretty sure he left.
I don't know what he would do there, but Aaron Philo, who played well at times for Georgia Tech, Aiden Childs, Michigan State quarterback, Kenny Minchie, and we already mentioned Drew Mestemaker. Some of the other top names currently in the portal. Are there any guys that you want to touch on there? Is there a name you think could surprise us that will jump in the portal? Again, the portal doesn't officially open until January 2nd.
We talked surprises and just names in general last week. I don't know if I necessarily have one that like is a surprise that hasn't made it yet, but I mean, I think Avery Johnson is like a name that is interesting from hasn't been announced, but I don't know, feels like maybe.
Well, Klein's coming back, right?
Like, I know, but like there is a level of like maybe it's time. Maybe this has run its course, and maybe there's greener pasture. And I think ultimately anybody's up for sale at this point with how much money is being thrown on. I will say Aiden Childs feels like the most interesting name if he makes the right choice, because I think from a raw athleticism talent perspective, he's there. From a decision making, from a how to be a true quarterback perspective, not there. And I've said this for 2 years now. It feels like this was square peg round hole with this offense. Like I've said it to my parents are big Michigan State fans. They went to school there. Like, why are you putting a quarterback this raw and athletic under center, turning his back to the defense?
Yeah.
He needs all the help he can get. You should put him in shotgun. This is not weird for college football to just be in shotgun nonstop. Like, just put him in shotgun, make it easy on him, and let him be athletic. And it feels like Jonathan Smith never did that. Yeah. And so I think he's a really interesting name if he stays the level of Michigan State, that kind of like lower to mid tier of a P4, or if he goes like high end G5 would be fun. I'm curious if you have any schools that have been talking to him or any potential good fits on your end.
I haven't seen any schools or anything being linked with him school wise. And I've been trying to, because he's from the California area. So I'm, there's not a lot there. Like he's not going to USC. Jaden Mayava's coming back. I don't really need to touch on that a lot, except for I think Houston Longstreet possibly could enter the portal now. But UCLA still got Nico. I don't expect Nico to enter the portal. So I just don't know where he goes. I doubt he goes back to like an Oregon State. There is an interesting school that played their quarterback in shotgun a lot, that had a very good season, that I believe is losing their quarterback this year. At least maybe he has one more year of eligibility, and that would be Arizona. Is Noah Fafita gone?
No, he's got one more.
One more? So, if he's got one more, I don't know that Childs goes and sits because he's running out of eligibility as well. So I don't know that Arizona fits. Arizona State would be great.
I was going to say, run it back with Michigan State transfers.
Yeah. If that's the case, I would love that for him as well. Because again, I just believe in Dillingham. I think Childs is definitely a step below guys like Levitt, Bo Nix, and Dylan Gabriel. I think Gabriel was a college quarterback.
the incredible
Gabriel.
college football careers, and were incredible college football quarterbacks at the very least. So, tons of experience with some of these names too. So he's not quite there yet, but he's getting there. I mean, he's had like basically a year and a half of starting. So
yeah, so we'll see what happens with Childs. I don't disagree with you. He's one that I'm excited to see where he goes. I still believe in him. Probably not. I believed at one point that he could possibly be a first round pick. I don't know that that's necessarily in the cards for him anymore. But we'll see what happens with him. Running backs. I'm just gonna read the list here, and then we can kind of go down and talk about him. Dylan Edwards, C.J. Baxter, Jarrett Gibson, Marquise Davis, who we touched on last week, Mekhi Frazier, Jaheim White, Harry Dalton III. That was more because I was expecting Austin to be on the show. And Adam Muhammad just entered the portal a little bit before we jumped on here. I mean, Baxter and Gibson, both from that Texas room entering, are interesting. It's going to leave that Texas room fairly thin unless they go to the portal. But Baxter, hasn't been necessarily good in his time in college. I don't know where he goes in. He's from the Florida area. Florida State doesn't really need a running back. Neither does Florida. I don't know if he takes a step down and goes to like a USF or something like that. He played at Edgewater. I don't know exactly. I don't think that's close to Orlando, actually. So I'm not exactly sure where that's close to, where he would go. Jarrett Gibson, I believe, was from the Texas area. I don't know what he would do either. But what are your thoughts here on the running backs that have all entered the transfer portal?
a little underwhelming. So, I mean, most of these names, for the most part, to me, are just like very unproven. Let's see what can happen types. But like, that's kind of the running back room, like the running back position by nature is like you can go from a nobody to an incredible player just because of talent, scheme, and sometimes you just fall behind guys. I think we've talked about it. Like Jaheim White to us is very interesting. Yeah. Dylan Edwards is very interesting from a fantasy perspective because he's just small in stature. And then Baxter, it's more just a matter of like, does he just like suck it up and go somewhere smaller and it's cool? Or does he try to level up and he's just kind of non-existent?
So for those of you on the podcast, Austin has joined the stream. I'm very interested to see how this goes. I assume he wants me to ask you the question about your parents are Michigan State fans, but you root for Michigan.
This should be fairly straightforward for those that are in the C2C Slack. I am like that rebel a-hole kid that like wants to root against their parents. Like, of course I was a Michigan fan. All my family is from Michigan. So we did have Michigan fans that were in the family. So it's not like nobody was a Michigan fan. But yeah, I just wanted to be like a dick and like root against my parents and like, like any child that's competitive. Like that just happened. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I don't know about that. I'm a very competitive person. I'm an Ohio State fan. But, it's tomato, tomato, to each their own. Different strokes for different folks, all that other good stuff, right? Yeah, I mean, I don't have much on the running backs either. Again, like I still kind of believe in Baxter's talent. By the way, Austin, if you're listening, I'm just going to remove you right now because you're just kind of sitting there. I'm not sure what's going on. I still believe in Baxter's talent. He was the last running back that we had as a 5-star for us as a company. Now, spoiler alert, we will have at least one, possibly two, I think, in this year's class. There are a couple really good running backs that will be coming in the 2026 class. I'll be interested to see where Baxter goes. I really don't think that he got a fair shake at Texas. The offensive line was pretty bad this year, and then him coming off that injury, like I just don't know. I don't know that I was expecting him to be really, really good. So, I do want to touch on the Adam Muhammad thing real quick, because we were talking a little bit about this pre-show. There's been 10 players from Washington that have jumped in the portal. To me, the only one of any real name is Adam Muhammad. There's a lot of rumors, or I guess people are speculating that Jed Fish will be leaving. I don't think Adam Muhammad jumping in the portal is that big a deal. And from our conversation, I believe you kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think running backs are fairly replaceable to begin with. But like, you would suspect if a lot of guys were leaving that because maybe their head coach is leaving, but there's been a lot of reports that Jed Fish is staying at Washington. So I think this is just like a random occurrence, nothing to take from it. And I think they've also shown that they like their backups, just generally speaking. Yeah. I know Nate's a big fan of Jordan Washington. I think that's his name, right? The third or the other running back that we haven't talked about. So like there is a spot for someone to be relevant and get good playing time. Maybe Muhammad just said, you know what, like I can get a payday because I've had some good games here at the end of the season. Why not? And I don't want to deal with a potential committee or losing out to Washington. So
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting. He feels like a good option for the portal. So it can't hurt to throw him in.
Wide receivers, there's a lot of names that have entered. I don't know that any of them are that fun outside of 4 of them. The 4 that I have written down are Nick Marsh, not Clemson, Auburn losing 2, and Perry Thompson and Malcolm Simmons, and then CFF darling Danny Scudero has also entered the portal. We did kind of talk about Nick Marsh last week, so I don't know that we need to rehash that. You, me, and Austin talked a little bit about him last week. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Perry Thompson or Malcolm Simmons, but specifically Danny Scudero, who again I don't know if he finished wide receiver 1, but he definitely was wide receiver 1 for most of the season, had an incredible season. What are your thoughts on him? Oh, I forgot you're an Auburn fan, so we can definitely get your thoughts on Perry Thompson and Malcolm Simmons.
Just because I don't want my wife and in-laws to be upset all the time. So I root for them just for pure their happiness reasons. Is Austin going to try to join in again?
I have no idea. We're just going to pretend like nothing's going on. We've got like 6 Austins behind the scenes currently.
I mean, the Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons additions feel like good additions to the portal that if they go to the right spot could be very appealing from a fantasy perspective. And then like them elevating their NFL draft perspective. It's just, they're talented guys. There's always very deep rooms with quarterbacks that couldn't necessarily handle deep rooms, right? Like when you have a quarterback like Ashton Daniels or what's his name, Jackson Arnold, these types of quarterbacks don't throw it to multiple guys. Like they don't have multiple reads in them. And so like, yeah, Perry Thompson's not going to get any targets, or like, yeah, Malcolm Simmons is only going to get targeted on gimmicky stuff. Like, unless they tell Jackson Arnold to throw it to Malcolm Simmons on this screenplay. Like, so I think they're great business decisions for them, and it could luck out for us in terms of fantasy. I think Danny Scudero is a great, give me like mid-level P4 West Coast. Mm-hmm. We're cooking with grease. If you go to like Wisconsin or something, like what are we doing? Like you get those types and you're just like, man, come on. Like this wasn't like, why would we do this? But I think he's going to end up going kind of like a Jackson Harris from Hawaii, like go like to Cal, or maybe like a Utah could be an interesting fit because they just don't have any receivers, and maybe get into a good spot like a Ryan Davis did last year. What were you thinking with Scudero?
I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I don't know much about his game outside of him, having the amazing season that he did. I actually don't even, where's Scudero from?
I think he went to Stanford first.
Okay.
And then he went to San Jose State. So I would imagine he's from the West Coast. He's from San Jose, it looks like.
Okay. So, obviously, let's see. He left there. I'm trying to think of, again, you wouldn't, if you're staying West Coast, if you could go, because I know you just said you'd want him to stay more mid-level, but a team that you would hope could utilize him the right way and is definitely losing at least their top 2 wide receivers is USC. I don't know that he would be a good fit there. I don't know that he'd be their number 1. They've got Tanook Hines, and who else was there this year that was also a
bunch of random guys? Jaden Richardson, Jay Fair, Prince Strong went to the portal.
Yeah, Strong did go to the portal. Yes, he could go there. Again, I don't know that you'd want him to go to a place like UCLA. Sure, Nico looked better toward the end of the season, and they have was it Chaney's coming in there, I believe, to be the head coach and everything. So
they have Quasi Gilmer there. The room is pretty thin. USC and UCLA both have like thin rooms, or at least unproven-ish rooms. Arizona State. So it's not the best in my opinion, but like they don't really have a ton of names there. They're kind of a weird team.
They have really no one. Well, I think Arizona State. Drew in the chat mentions Arizona State. Arizona State could be a fun spot for him to go. There's a lot that Dillingham's got to rebuild this year, though. Like if Levitt was staying, I'd feel a whole lot better about it because you're losing Tyson. A couple of those other wide receivers are out of eligibility, so they're going to. So like I could see Scudero coming in and being the guy, but like, what's the quarterback situation look like? Even if it is like we talked about, if they bring in Aiden Childs, I love Aiden Childs. He's going to have to show a little bit more as a passer. He's not Levitt as a passer. So, like, I don't know how much that helps Scudero. Right. But I do think it could be a fun spot again just because of Dillingham. But we'll have to see what he does from the quarterback position because I think that's kind of wide open right now.
I think like a Cal makes a lot of sense. Jacob DeJesus was productive and he's a former G5 guy. You have JKS. So, like, if you're Scudero, it's like, man, I could connect up with a really promising quarterback that a lot of NFL guys are going to be watching. Like if I'm a receiver that wants to maybe make a name for myself after a really great G5 year, like let me latch on to a P4 quarterback that is potentially a first round quarterback because everybody's going to watch him throwing the football. And who's he throwing to?
Yeah.
You is the hope, right? So like to me, that feels like a good fit West Coast in a potentially great CFF fit as well. But some of those names, right? Like that kind of, not to throw any shade on Arizona State, like they're not necessarily the mid-level P4-ish I was talking about, but like they do fit because the rooms are so thin and the systems are fairly positive to boost any sort of value for a receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I think any of those schools outside of, to me, even though they are bringing in Chaney, I think UCLA is probably the bottom of that list. I mean, again, I don't want to say that USC is a step up or maybe too high of a step for him, but I mean, you trust Riley with what he's able to do with wide receivers. Maybe if he were to go to USC, he could be the guy. But yeah, I think Arizona State or Cal could be really, really intriguing for him. And again, really the only, you got Fafita. I was going to say, you have Fafita, who's shown he can be fairly good from at least a college passing perspective and quarterback. And then also what JKS has done from a Cal perspective.
Austin's in the green room and he just like turned on his camera and it's just like very clearly see
he's walking somewhere.
And it's like just his forehead. I want to ask you about the Perry
That's
Thompson.
Like one of those first times like your parents FaceTime you and they're just like hey, and it's like you're just looking at their forehead. I'm looking at
just your forehead, Mom.
Yeah.
What about Perry Thompson and Malcolm Simmons? Are there any schools connected to him or to those two?
I have not seen anything, and I actually don't know where either one of them are from to see if maybe there's something they would go.
Perry Thompson is from Alabama. I think he was looking at Alabama.
Gotcha. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, Malcolm Simmons is getting some, at least on X, which I don't know that's the most, verifiable source here, is getting some links to Alabama, Georgia Tech, which is I don't think he'd go to Georgia Tech. Another one he's getting links is to Texas. That would actually be kind of interesting with some of the players that they likely lose this year and what at least 1 year of what Sark has been able to do with those wide receivers. This past year has not been great.
So both are from Alabama. Both of them feel like they could go to another SEC school. Like it feels like maybe, I don't know, I won't say like Mississippi State, but like, yeah, not Kentucky, not Vandy, but like a Texas, a Tennessee,
LSU needs wide receivers.
Great call. Yeah. South Carolina, like one of these like interconference, go to the next bigger-ish type school. Like Auburn's big. They're not that big in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
They like to think they're bigger than they actually are. Like to me, like Tennessee's going to have Brazel's going to be gone. I think Staley is, another year. But like a lot of these rooms in the SEC receiver groups, they're missing one or two guys, and you could certainly take advantage of it. And both of them had done, Simmons has done enough to be really interested in from another SEC perspective. Perry Thompson, you're a little bit more riding on the fact that he was a big recruit, a little less actual production, but he was always seemingly like the fourth guy because Simmons had like a different level of skill set that allowed him to kind of get onto the field, whereas Thompson was another version of what Singleton and Kim Coleman were to an extent. So it kind of felt like he just felt like the odd man out.
All right. Well, we will continue to monitor the transfer portal as more and more players enter and possibly exit. Again, I think it doesn't officially open until January 2nd. So, I mean, we still have all kinds of players that could possibly be entering, and we'll probably start to get more confirmed news about where these players will be going around that time as well as they start to kind of, pick their spots.
We can help you make your Kalshi bets.
Yeah, there we go. Just DM us on Discord and we can help you figure out who's actually going to enter the portal and all that other stuff. I do want to touch on, obviously, we have the first round of the playoffs this weekend starting on Friday. In that game, we have it's number 9 Alabama versus number 8 Oklahoma. As the time of this recording, Alabama is being favored by 1.5 points with a total of 40.5. How do you see this game going? Again, they played each other earlier this year. Oklahoma traveled to Tuscaloosa, right, and played at Alabama. They are now coming to Oklahoma to play here. Norman. I had Stillwater stuck in my head. Norman. They're coming to Norman to play the Sooners.
I think Alabama wins. This does feel very close. It's one of those situations where they lost at home, but it did feel like they did everything they could to win. But when you turn the ball over like 4 times, you're not going to win. And that total, I don't know. Maybe I'm a fish, but that feels like so low. Somebody can't win 21-20. Like that feels way too low for a total. So I would bet over there as well. But I will say, my picks have been very sketchy all year, so take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning Alabama as well. I mean, again, I know Oklahoma won it the first time, and you could argue that Mateer, is still kind of dealing with the injury stuff and everything, but like he just hasn't looked good since coming back. I do trust the Oklahoma defense to possibly still cause some issues for Alabama, but they had a couple turnovers in that game as well, and still only lost by what? They lost by 6, I think, or it was less than a touchdown, if I'm remembering correctly. And they had multiple turnovers. I know, again, they're coming into Norman. It's not an easy place to play. But I do expect Alabama to find a way to come away with the win here in this one. Wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma wins, and I think that's why the game is projected so close. And I do agree. I'd probably take the over on the 40.5 there. The first game on Saturdays, I think probably going to be either first or, well, Alabama, Oklahoma is going to be a really good game. Probably the only game worth watching on Saturday. And that is number 10, Miami, going up against number 7, Texas A&M. Texas A&M is getting 3.5 points, and the total is 50.5. How do you see this one go?
I don't have any lean on the actual total, but I think I think A&M wins.
Yeah.
But this feels like a 24-21 game, a 27-24 game. And so, like, if you can get 3 in the hook, I think it makes a ton of sense. It just does definitely feel. It feels like A&M's throwing a lot of shade at Miami, giving them extra billboard material. I'm not the biggest Miami guy by any means, but A&M is like as unproven as it gets from a pure resume perspective. It's a very soft 11-1. So I think I would lean Miami in the points. What about you?
I mean, I think I am technically contractually obligated to take Texas A&M. I do not feel great about that, just because I want to, not get yelled at. I'm worried about this one though, because I don't disagree with you, right? Like, why give them the extra motivation? I mean, Carson Beck has the ability to have like a really good game in him, and Texas A&M's defense has really kind of struggled in the back half of this season. Specifically that secondary, which I think Malachi Toney should be able to make some big plays against that secondary. And we've seen Marcel Reed, whether it's because of the ankle or what, really those past couple of games, and you could argue too, just better opponents, has actually kind of struggled a little bit more than he was earlier in the season. So I'm going to take Texas A&M because they are at home. I do think that Kyle Field is one of the hardest places to go play. That's why they have the quote unquote was the 24th man or whatever it is they call it down there. I think Seattle does the same thing. I believe Texas A&M had it first, so whatever. I do think it is hard to go there and win. And again, I think Carson Beck is the guy who, while I just said could have a game that can win it for you, he could also be the guy who turns the ball over 5 times and costs you the game. So I really think it kind of depends on which Carson Beck shows up, but I'll take the Aggies to find a way to beat Miami. Also hoping to speak that into existence because then they'll be playing Ohio State here in Texas, and I will get to possibly go to that game. So,
oh, where's that at? The Cotton Bowl?
yeah, well, Jerry World at the AT&T Stadium. Yeah, but the Cotton Bowl game. Yeah.
Nice.
The next two games, again, I don't think we have to spend much time on them. I hope that they're good games, but I'm not holding my breath. Number 11, Tulane versus number 6, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is getting 17.5 points, total 56.5.
I would go over. This one I feel better about the over than I do the line itself. I think it'd be really hard to take Tulane plus 17.5 as many points as that is. I mean, they played already, right? And I think it was 45-10. It'd be hard to really just think that Tulane could cover 17.5, but I feel better about that over. Have you heard it's losing my head, but Jake Retzlaff's nickname?
I have not.
Let me Google it to make sure. I saw it today and was like, this is absolutely incredible.
It's not white chocolate like Parker. Was it that Parker Livingstone, right? Is that white chocolate?
Somebody called him the Bayou Jew. And there's also
that's what he was at BYU. Is the BYU Jew. So I guess it makes sense.
That's true. And also the Shabbat Slinger. I mean, these names are getting good. These games are getting good. But what about you? Which do you feel better about, the 17.5 or the point total?
I'd say the 17.5. Well, I don't know actually, because obviously they're going to have their play callers still there. I mean, Golding's the head coach now for Ole Miss. He's still going to be calling the defense, I believe. And then for the life of me, cannot remember who the offensive coordinator is. Charlie Weiss Jr. Is going to still be calling plays on the offense, even though he's technically working for LSU. So I don't think that Ole Miss will really take any kind of step back not having Lane Kiffin there. I think that actually might help them kind of have an even bigger game, is kind of like giving a little bit of a middle finger to Lane Kiffin, kind of like in the playoffs. So I'd probably take, I feel good taking both of them, because I think Ole Miss will probably just continue to run up the score.
You think they just roll?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I don't want to see that happen, because I was just watching a press conference today for John Summerall talking about stuff. I really love the way he's handling all this stuff with the move to Florida and like donating a bunch of money to Tulane and talking about he wants to see them succeed. I mean, like, I feel like he's handling this really well. And in his press conference, he said it matters how you enter the door, but also how you leave the room. I've really kind of enjoyed the way he's handling this. Like, I don't want to see Tulane get blown out, but I kind of feel like that's the way it's going.
Summerall's making some fans right now, for sure. The way, I mean, like, 100K is no joke, right?
Yeah.
And he donated it back to Tulane. And somebody's like, why? And he's like, well, like you said, it matters how you leave the program, and the appreciation and support, for sure. I mean, it got him to an extent to Florida. So good for him. I don't know. I feel like I'm more confident in this Tulane Ole Miss game, though, than the James Madison Oregon
game. So the James Madison Oregon game is a night game Saturday night. Number 12 James Madison versus number 5 Oregon. Oregon getting 21 points with a total of 47.5.
I feel like I have no idea. Like, I literally, anything I would say out loud right now is a pure guess. If I had to take one bet from this game, it'd be Oregon minus 21, because they're the higher seed. They should, in theory, do it. And I just saw JMU struggle against Troy, who just struggled against Jacksonville State last night. Like, all of it's just making up reasons out of thin air. You should definitely not bet that, because I just said that out loud.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this game goes, because it's just like Oregon has been so up and down. I don't think that James Madison upsets them in any way, but I would not be surprised if this is a little bit closer than, say, what I think the Tulane Ole Miss game is going to be. I expect Oregon to win. I don't think I'd bet either. Like, I think I'd bet both, as I said earlier, the Ole Miss over and their 17.5, and just stay clear from this game. I don't know why. Again, I don't think Oregon loses, but I just could see this being a close game.
This is not the Oregon of old, that puts up 52 on a team that they're way better than. This feels like all I feel like I've seen, at least in the second half of the season, is They win games 27-17, 27-14, 31-21. Like, doesn't feel like a team that is just running away with games. What's a really interesting angle from an Oregon perspective is like how healthy are they at receiver?
Yeah.
Because Evan Stewart is back in practice in pads, but like how limited is he? DeCorey Moore at receiver, super talented freshman. We don't really know the extent of his injury. Is he potentially back? Is he just like screwing with us? Like, we all kind of, I think the rumor was ACL injury, but that can't possibly be it if he's practicing to any level of limited extent. But we just don't know how much they're going to play and how much do they need them to play, right? And so how much do they really push it offensively if some of their key skill guys are not playing?
Yeah, I mean, one of the other things I don't know how much this is being mentioned for Oregon side of things is there's also got to be a whole lot of stuff going on with that coaching staff right now. I mean, both Will Stein and their defensive coordinator, I forget his name, are leaving. They have head coaching jobs right now. So they're working on building their respective programs while also trying to get ready for this James Madison game. Dan Lanning's trying to figure out who he's going to hire as his new offensive and defensive coordinator, as well as preparing for this James Madison game. Again, I think all of them are professionals. Love Dan Lanning. I think you could argue one of the best, if not the best coach in college. Well, I don't think you can say he's the best. He hasn't won a national championship. One of my favorite coaches, I'll put it that way. He's
a very, very good coach. Highly regarded, top 6, 7 for sure.
But that's still got to be weighing on you as you're trying to, again, prepare for a James Madison team that I think whether you admit it or not, you're probably not taking as serious as if you were playing Ohio State right now or a Georgia, somebody like that. While, again, you're still trying to have to build out now your new coaching staff that will be leaving whenever your playoff run ends. So, again, I think that all coming together could lead to this at least being a little bit more of an interesting game. I don't expect them to lose, but I could see James Madison making this fun for at least a little while.
Yeah, you're really just watching and hoping for entertainment in the last 2 games from like the Cinderella standpoint. Like, I think those are games that if you looked at like the viewership of those 2 games, you're going to see a huge start. And then if this game becomes 10 or 14 points by the second quarter, you could see half the viewers fall off and not use up their honey, start doing their honeydews so they can watch football on Sunday instead.
Yeah. It hopefully will be a good weekend for us college football wise, again, with it being the first round of the playoffs. I think we'll be back live next week. I'm not sure. It's Christmas Eve. Austin is no longer backstage, or I'd ask him what he thinks right now. So we'll have discussions. But if you see, best way to keep track of that is subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon. You'll be notified as soon as we schedule the show. But we'll have some kind of recording for you guys next week, whether it's live or at least on the podcast feed. Kirk wasn't able to join us today. I forgot to send him the link, so we don't have to worry about apologizing for not having him on the show.
Probably and we had time. That's the sad part is we had time.
That is, we're getting out of here 3 minutes early. He probably would have got kicked out anyways with like the 10 Austins that joined backstage. So it's probably for the best because he really gets upset sometimes when we just kick him out. So apologies though to Kirk if you do end up listening to this. We know you're a big fan. But for Chris K, I am Matt Bruening, and we will be back again with you guys next week. Have a great weekend.